Hello, I'm Will. Welcome to X Investigation. One March morning in 1984, on Iceland's southeast Hima Island, a door was knocked. The homeowner forced it open. A man stood in the doorway. He was drenched, wearing a red plaid shirt and denim pants. A chilling, raw scent hung around him. Even more shocking, he was barefoot, his feet covered in scars. A winding trail of water marked his path. The homeowner stared in disbelief. The man rattled off a few names, repeating that he had been swimming. He looked terribly weak. Who is this mysterious visitor? What ordeal has he endured? Let's rewind a few hours. March 11, 1984, a Sunday, 10 p.m. Night fell slowly as a fishing vessel left Stikesholm port in western Iceland, heading toward the Westman, near archipelago on the south coast. They were set to fish there. A 75-ton ship, built in West Germany, equipped with fishing gear, and carrying heavy wooden pallets. Iceland was in the winter-spring transition, and nights grew even colder. Temperatures dropped to -2 degrees Celsius, with biting gusts chilling the crew. Sea water hovered at 5 or 6 degrees. After the catch, the plan was to sail to the largest island in the group, Hima Island, the heart of Icelandic fisheries, with its dramatic shoreline, abundant wildlife, and raw natural beauty. The crew looked forward to resting there, taking in the scenery. At that moment, 5 men were aboard: the captain, chief engineer, assistant engineer, the cook, and 23-year-old crewman Friedson. As night deepened, Friedson fell into a heavy drowsiness in the cramped cabin below deck. But the brief calm is shattered quickly. He's woken by the ship's cook, who reports the fishing net got snagged on the seabed. That's bad news. A stuck net means not just financial loss, but also huge drag on the vessel. It could overload or damage the engine. In extreme cases, the hull could lose balance in the waves and capsize. Friedrich Descensen rushed onto the deck. The rest of the crew scrambled out, trying to haul the net with the footwinch. The steel cable attached to the net snapped. The massive pull tipped the trawler severely. Cold seawater began flooding the deck. The captain realized the danger. He ordered the crew to release the winch. But the winch had jammed too. It couldn't be operated. Raging waves pounded the boat. The mechanical systems failed fast. Within seconds, the ship rolled over completely. 5 crew members were thrown into the icy sea. It happened so suddenly. They didn't even have time to send a distress signal. The nearest island, Hema, lay 6 kilometers away. Every extra second in the water meant more danger. Everyone knew that. They tried every means to save themselves, but even the last hope, the emergency life raft, wouldn't deploy. The 5 men drifted on the cold, black sea, with no options left. Soon the assistant engineer and the cook couldn't hold on in the frigid water, and lost their lives. The remaining 3, crewman Friedrich Descensen, the captain and the chief engineer, managed to grab the boat's keel and clambered aboard, giving them a brief respite from the water, a moment to catch their breath. Facing the sudden disaster, they talked, sharing fear and despair. Watching most of the hull sink, Descensen blurted out, "If God exists, he should be helping us now. We need his help." Though he once doubted God's existence, he now prays devoutly. The 3 comfort each other, offering mental support. The captain's shoes and socks were swept away by the waves. He shivers uncontrollably. The captain suggests, only by swimming 6 kilometers to Hamar Island can we hope to survive? But the other 2 say in this freezing cold, it's almost impossible. As they argue, the fishing boat sinks completely. It's now 11 p.m. Floating on the sea, the 3 have no choice. They must follow the lighthouse's beam on Crane Horse Island and swim for their lives, calling out, hoping for a response. But minutes later, the pilot, frozen, loses strength and slips beneath the water. Now only 2 of the 5 crew remain. Compared to the others, Friedson and the captain are sturdier, better swimmers. That raises their odds. The 2 fight the waves side by side in the dark, shouting each other's names, encouraging one another, swimming toward the light. After an unknown stretch of time, Friedson's calls to the captain go unanswered. He knows the captain can't hold on. He's alone now. Alone in the endless ocean, the terror is indescribable. He pushes forward mechanically without reach. The waves keep raging. Friedson inevitably gulps seawater. It makes him gag several times. to stop it happening again. He even tries to vomit, but it stiffens his neck. His soaked clothes cling, worsening the strain. During the long swim, his thoughts never cease. He recalls a promise with friends to visit New York before they die. If he drowns now, that dream dies. What a tragic loss that would be. He also remembers ordering a motorcycle from England not long ago. How tragic that would be. He also recalled that he had just ordered some motorcycles from the UK. Car parts. If it can't be collected in time, it could inconvenience the family. If I really can't survive, the creditors will go after his parents, dragging them into trouble. So he keeps swimming forward, while his mind drifts to everyday worries, trying to keep his thoughts active, to fight the cold and fatigue. Sometimes he slaps his almost numb legs to make sure they're still there. His will to survive spikes. He starts swimming faster. Even though the sea is pitch black, his seasoned sailor experience. Friedrichsen estimates he swum about 6 kilometers. Then his heart pounds. A distant ship heads his way. He races toward the faint light. No time to think of anything else. At about 100 meters from the ship, he shouts with all his might. Waves, splashes, hoping someone notices. But the ship passes by, oblivious. No one sees him in the darkness. Watching the vessel fade away, Friedrichsen feels a surge of despair. Then he realizes survival depends on himself. He steadies himself, continues toward his original goal. His body grows numb. At times it feels like drifting by inertia in the icy water. Strange thoughts flash through his mind. He senses his inevitable end. Yet oddly, he never feels true fear. Instead, he tries every trick to distract himself against the loneliness. He recalls gulls are a sailor's friends. So he asks a gull to deliver a message to his father's village, but the circling gulls don't seem to get it. He gets frustrated, can't help complaining. You aren't helping me at all. Then he puts his hope in dolphins, having heard many dolphin rescue stories. But the dolphins seem to avoid these icy waters. They never show up. To keep his muscles from stiffening, Friedrichsen constantly changes his stroke. When he swims freestyle, he aims for the brightest star in the night sky. Even when clouds drift by, that star still guides him. When he breaststrokes, he fixes his gaze on land, the lighthouse and distant islands, steadily heading toward his goal, imagining he'll reach it in the next second. Unnoticed, the clock hits 4 a.m. By then Friedrichsen has been in the water 6 hours, covering a full 6 kilometers. He finally hears the surf crashing on shore. He risks being tossed against rocks by the waves. Struggling ashore, he lands on a rock. Even though his feet touch ground, he can barely stand. A wave of nausea and vertigo hits him, like seasickness. He sits there for a few minutes, begins to wonder if he should lie down, but fears he might slip into a deep coma and never wake up. After a brief pause, he grits his teeth and pushes on. Unable to balance, he first tries to crawl, then forces himself to stand and walk. But the dizzy spell makes balance impossible. His body sways uncontrollably. He even tries to wedge a plank under his foot, hoping for a bit of support. But it fails. He can only inch forward in tiny steps. Molly's trials are far from over. He lands on a field of sharp spikes, snow-covered lava rock. The ground is hard and jagged. No shelter in sight. For a barefoot man, it feels like stepping on knives. The difficulty surpasses even the frigid swim. Still, he doesn't quit. He cannot afford to give up. He keeps climbing inland up the mountain, dragging his frost-soaked clothes behind him. Even as his feet were repeatedly sliced by sharp rocks, scarred and bleeding, he painfully kept moving for nearly 3 hours. During the ordeal, Friedrichsen happened upon a bathtub used to water the sheep. Inside was the fresh water he craved, but a thick layer of ice covered the surface. He poured all his strength into his fists and hammered the ice until his hands swelled and reddened. Finally, he broke through. A hole formed in the ice, just big enough for him to stick his head inside. He gulped the hard-won life-giving water. The fresh water revived his spirit and gave new energy for the road ahead. He kept moving toward the village. When the lights of a house came into view, the scene was the most magnificent he'd ever seen. 9 hours after he fell into the sea, at 7 a.m., His pace quickened toward the nearest lit house. After breaking the door, the story began as it had at the start. After that, his memory was almost a blank. His will finally collapsed. His consciousness faded, and he was rushed to the hospital. The house was about 3 kilometers from where he went ashore. Everyone stared at his shocking feat and were stunned. Doctors examined him and were puzzled. His heartbeat was very weak, and he showed clear signs of dehydration. His temperature was so low the regular thermometer couldn't read it. Only 34 degrees Celsius. But overall, he was not in immediate danger of death. Normally, in water below 6 degrees Celsius, a person would die of hypothermia in about 75 minutes, yet Friedson survived in 5 degrees Celsius icy seawater, staying conscious for nearly 6 hours. An astonishing feat. Meanwhile, authorities launched a massive search in the fishing grounds where the boat had vanished, surviving while staying lucid. Nearly 6 hours. Astonishing. Meanwhile, authorities immediately launched a massive search in the fishing vessel's area, initiated a large-scale search. Many volunteers scoured the surrounding lava fields, searching the road for clues to see if any crew members survived. Soon, a rescue vessel spotted a slick of oil 6 kilometers east of Hama Island, and sonar detected a fishing boat wreck at 99 m depth below the surface. The 4 crew members' bodies were never recovered. Experts say the capsizing was likely caused by the heavy cargo on board. The crew either miscalculated or ignored the weight, making the vessel more vulnerable to sea mines. To uncover how Friedson survived the miracle, scientists studied him after his recovery. He wore the clothes he had on during the incident and was immersed in a temperature-controlled tank set at 5.3-5.4 degrees C. In water tanks at 3 to 5.4 degrees Celsius, his head remained above water while he mimicked swimming, flailing his limbs. Friedson stands 1.93 m tall, weighs 125 kilograms. For a rigorous control, scientists recruited several volunteers of similar size to join the experiment. The results showed that after 30 minutes in the cold water, the volunteers' body temperatures dropped noticeably, forcing them to quit the test. Friedson's temperature fell only slightly, but after 75 minutes, it astonishingly stabilized near normal levels. The trial continued until minute 83, when foot pain made him stop. Scientists measured his metabolism, core temperature, and fat thickness, and concluded that the miracle stemmed from a 1.4 centimeters thick fat layer, dense like a seal's blubber, far firmer than ordinary human fat, allowing it to trap heat efficiently, keeping blood flow centered in the core, and maintaining body heat in the cold. Hence some call Friedson the Seal Man. Beyond physiology, scientists stress his calm composure and strong self-control during the ordeal were key to this survival miracle. Also, the key factor behind this survival miracle, his unyielding will to live, earned praise. But unlike many who profit from surviving disasters, Friedson sees things differently. He never uses his story as a publicity tool. When he talks about the event that changed his life, he always shifts focus to the 4 crew members who perished and urges authorities to equip every vessel with mandatory automatic emergency life-saving devices to prevent a repeat of the tragedy. He admits that during that survival ordeal, he swore he'd never go to sea again. Yet now a flicker of doubt remains. Whatever the future holds, he thanks God for his survival. The following year, 1985, the Gulag swim was created to honor Friedson's remarkable feat and to mourn the 4 lost crewmen. The 6-kilometer race, held each March, draws athletes from far and wide, including the 2012 London Summer Games 200-meter freestyle gold medalist, Icelandic swimmer John Sverrisson, who entered the 2013 edition, and the husband of Iceland's president, Hallar Ártir, who raced in 2025. The 2012 incident was later turned into a film, highlighting Friedson's heroism, but he was far from pleased. He shuns the spotlight, insisting the true tribute belongs to the fallen crew members. The movie thrust him into the limelight, something he never wanted. Today, a display case at a museum on Van Island showcases the shirt and work jeans Friedson wore while escaping, a tangible reminder of his extraordinary ordeal. The plaque on the case bears the names of the 4 lost sailors, and the rescue site on Hama Island is marked by several memorials. Silent witnesses to this chapter of history. A hillside sign points to the original route, while a bilingual Icelandic/English board in a water-filled tub recounts the event. A monument stands nearby, underscoring how small life seems against the vast ocean. Friedsohn is both a witness pushed ashore by disaster and living proof of an extraordinary survival. Several memorial markers now stand as silent witnesses to this history. On a hillside, a directional sign points to its original location. Direction. A sign is placed on the water-filled bathtub. It records the incident in Icelandic and English. A monument stands nearby. Life seems tiny against the vast ocean. Friedsohn is both a witness pushed ashore by the disaster and a living proof of an extraordinary survival. To him, if his story can warn others, that's the greatest meaning of his ordeal.